I'm Ames Asbell. I teach viola at Texas State University, and I'm here with you for the last in our series of Mazas number 26 tutorials. So we're going to be working on the last section of the Mazas today. This will be measures 77 through the end. So we'll be just kind of finishing up the middle section, working through the recap and discussing anything that's different in this last return. Like at measure 87, you'll see this is like the material at the beginning, but then there'll be some differences. So first we'll talk about the end of the middle section. So measure 77. We've got some double stops here, interspersed with some slurred sections, and then the main thing to look at is measure 81. We have these series of bars that have a hairpin on the up bow. So we're going to a crescendo on the up bow to the down bow. So we're going to want to make sure that we really do the hairpins that are noted there and that everything is really in tune. So we'll just talk through this quickly, kind of measure by measure. So we're starting measure 77 on an up bow. We want to make sure that the F is in tune with the open G string. And then we're adding the A flat. Then set the bow, making sure that we're really singing melodically. Then this measure is a little bit difficult. We're moving the third finger back and forth. So if you're tuning this using the building blocks method of tuning, you play the lower finger. I'm making sure that you really are tuning always the third finger to either the one or the two. So that'll help you learn that quickly. Find your fourth finger, 2 notes staccato. And this is in the errata here. This measure 80, beat 2, make sure we play B natural, short. And then here's the hairpin. That section to demonstrate how it should sound. But in measure 81, make sure you decrescendo from the downbeat and subdivide. So you're going 1 E and a 2. 1 E and a. 1 E and a. Big shift. So one caution I'd say, if you follow the printed hairpins, you're coming down to piano each time, but musically, as we're ascending, we want to make each one a little bit more, and especially once you go up high on the A string, when you're in fifth position on the A string, you want to make sure that you're playing a little bit stronger there. So that's in measure 84. By the time you get there, make sure that you're playing nice and strong. All right? The first big shift would be in measure 83. You've got 2 shifts actually. Third position. I want to really make sure when you're practicing that you slide that. And once you get the F in tune, you can keep it down. Because you're coming back to it. And this measure, 84, very tricky in the second half of the bar for intonation. Make sure that B natural is high enough. That's really, really important. Making sure that the B is high enough. And if you've got an F natural down, that's an all whole steps finger pattern. To know that pattern will really help you get that in tune. Then we do a little retard, as you'll notice in measure 86. There's a little printed retard there. I think since it's in parentheses, you're at liberty to do as much of it as you want to do. I wouldn't do maybe too much, but do a little bit to show that you've seen it and that you understand. We're ending a section here. We're coming back to the new section. Also in that measure, 87, 6. Be certain that you make a good contrast between A flat and A natural. Then you'll be shifting back to first position, starting like we do at the beginning, making sure you've got your grace note down before you go. Then from 87 to 91, it's just like the beginning, so if you've practiced that and done that with the first tutorial, then you should be fine. The thing that's different in 91, the second half of the bar, is we actually go up the octave, we go to third position, and we need to be certain that we are careful. In 92, there's a fourth finger on B natural and a second finger on A flat. So that's just a contracted finger position. It's lower. That B flat is a little bit lower, or B natural, excuse me, is a little bit lower. You're used to putting 4 on C, so that's a half step lower than you think it should be. So, so we're going to do a third position in 91, staying in third position. Shifting back to first position in measure 93. Then you've got these big chords. So I'll just play a couple of little segments just so you can hear how it sounds. I will do a playthrough at the end of this slow playthrough, but this is 91, going to third position. First position. Now this chord in measure 94, best done in half position. Find E flat with the first finger, D flat. So it's a whole step and a half step, if you can see that. So really be in half position. Don't try to play a low one and a something funny. Some people might play a 1 and a 2, but I would just really be in half position and feel that interval. You can play it a little bit, but make sure it's a full quarter note, nice and big with vibrato. Next chord, measure 95, still in half position, only an eighth note. Then you go up to first position. I would do 1 on A natural, 2 on F sharp, and then 4 on E flat. So if you look at it, it's a whole step between 1 and 2, then a half step between 2 and 3, half step between 3 and 4. That will really help you secure that in tune. If you just kind of putting the fingers down independently, you won't be as well in tune as if you measure carefully. All right, so make sure you know whether you're in half position or first position and where the half steps and whole steps in your finger pattern are. Okay, we're almost to the end. Measure 96, we've got all of these up bows. So I would make sure you get really to the tip for this. So what I do is really at the tip and I squeeze really gently with my fingers on each up bow. We start with an extension. So the tricks are being really at the tip. Kind of angle my elbow up just a little bit. That puts a little bit of weight into the first finger. And then, sorry, I'll play the right notes. Then making sure each one of those is really crisp. Even if you get a little sound at the beginning, that's fine. Okay, so measure 96, we do the up bows, and then we have this figure repeated. We're back to those 30 seconds with a 16th note res. So since the same thing happens 4 times in a row, I make sure, it says piano and crescendo, I would just make each measure a different level. Maybe piano, mezzo forte, like forte, and then you're really arriving, maybe even forte plus, right there for the end, just nice and full. And the chords at the end, sorry, I'll play your octave better in tune than long. Make sure when you're playing that you're subdividing eighth notes so that you can differentiate between which chords are the quarters and which chords are the eighths. Make sure you show that you know the difference between those. It started to storm a little bit outside, so I'm going to pause right here and we'll come back for a playthrough. Okay, so here's our playthrough for the last section of the Mazas 26. This is measure 78 through the end of the piece. We'll do a playthrough at 110 to the quarter note. So practice, excuse me, 110 to the eighth note. So this is practice tempo. 1 and 2 and 3 and. So we're being careful to count and subdivide even during that last chord, so that we're not leaving any detail to chance. And I didn't mention it, but in the playthrough I did not do the retard so that we could stay with the metronome. But that's something that you can kind of manage on your own in your practice. Obviously you'll have to make some decisions about where you use the metronome, but most of the time practicing with the metronome, or I should say practicing with the metronome most of the time, is a great idea. Alright, I hope these tutorials have been of help to you, and good luck with your practicing. We'll see you later for the playthroughs.